On this week's Gridiron Report, we have an absolutely jam-packed show. We talked the Lions stomping of the Commanders, Dan Campbell play calling, a potential NFC Championship matchup preview with the Lions and Eagles, Tigers free agency, and the Pistons hot start. And it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all your golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off any products at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
City where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, November 12th, and it seems like the key to the Lions' success is truly as simple as having Dan Campbell at the helm. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we have so much to talk about, so we're just going to jump right into this. Lions beat the Commanders 44-22. The main storyline coming out of this is Dan Campbell obviously taking over play calling, and we're right back to Lions football. I mean, this felt like last year. It felt right. This felt normal. This felt like home, right? And and what can only be considered a beatdown of the Commanders.
Oh yeah, man, dude, belt to ass, and yeah, dude, the guy at the helm, MCDC, a studious MCDC in his new glasses. Probably not new, but we haven't seen him wearing glasses on the sideline yet, so. Just, yeah, looking like a librarian out there, just a scientist, just cooking up incredible play after incredible play. It wasn't all perfect, but it was pretty damn near close. When you score on every drive, except for the kneel down at the end of the game, I'd say that's pretty much a perfect game. So, yeah, just exactly what the team needed. And shout out to Dan Campbell, just calling a great game, man. We needed that.
Yeah, we'll break down like where the Lions go from here with Dan Campbell making the play calls, like what this means for the team. But it's just so funny you pointed out him wearing his glasses. Dan Campbell might be the strangest combination of guys. When you look at him, you just see the meathead that he is. You see the tight end that he used to be, and probably 6'5", 226, 250, meathead. But then he's this offensive guru who can put together such a beautiful play calling game. And then also, like you said, he's wearing his glasses looking like a librarian. It's so funny, like just the duality that is Dan Campbell. But yeah, so Lions win 44-22. This was Lions football. Like you said, it wasn't perfect. I thought the special teams still needs a little bit of help. We've been struggling a little bit for the past few weeks. I feel like a lot of the returns have started the opposing offenses around the 50-yard line. But let's start with the offense, just because, and again, we'll get into the play calling here towards the end of the review, but Jared Goff was amazing, and that definitely has to do with the play calling. He was 25 for 33, 320 yards for 3 tugs, 0 sacks given up by the offensive line when we'd given up 14 in the last 4 games. Like Jared Goff, it starts with Jared Goff, and he was phenomenal. He was back to Jared Goff of last year, in which there was a legit case of whether or not he'd be included in the MVP conversation.
He was so awesome, man. And when we talked about them scoring on every play, and a lot of that is Jared, and taking care of the ball. I feel like how many times in Jared Goff's Lions career has he had these 3 touchdowns, zero pick games, 0 fumbles. It's just he's when he's on, he's on. He's always making that throw. And I loved his decision making. I love that he was able to take care of the ball, get guys in space. And Dan Campbell's plays were definitely scheming guys open left and right. Laporta had a great game. St. Brown, J-Mo. I feel like on one drive, Dan made it. He was like, we were getting the ball to Jameson Williams as many times as we can on this drive, and they targeted him probably 3 or 4 times. Ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. I think these are things that we're wanting to see out of Johnny Morton, and just could never really put it together. And Dan Campbell definitely put it together. And yeah, to your point, definitely start with Jared Goff, man. He was awesome.
The quote unquote JMO drive was so funny because we've been yelling for that all season, right? Like everyone has been, but you're so right. Like it literally was like it was Dan Campbell literally saying like again. It was like JMO. And there was one point in the game when you see him on the sideline, Dan Campbell that is, calling the play, and I swear to God, you can find the clip on Twitter. He's celebrating the touchdown before he even calls the play, and then he calls JMO's number and it's a cross for JMO and he runs in for the touchdown. It was like the coolest drive we've had all season. It was awesome.
I've never seen a coach celebrate getting the play call in. Like, it was this guy, like, he lives and breathes football. He loves football so much that, like, he literally just called a play and he's like, yes, this is going to work. This is a man beater. We're going to scheme Jameson Williams open. It's going to be awesome. And he literally fist pumped after he called it into Jared Goff, like, before the snap even happened. So yeah, I've never seen that before. May never see it again. It was awesome.
JMO's such a weapon, and it couldn't have happened to a better guy. The media has been baiting him for weeks, being like, well, you probably want the ball more, right? Like, trying to make him this diva that we know a lot of receivers are. And credit to him, we talk about how he's just like a big kid. He just like loves football and just loves to be out there and laugh. Like, they've been baiting him so much and he hasn't fallen for it. So I'm so happy they finally got him involved. JMO finished the day, 6 catches, 119 yards, 1 touchdown, along a 41. He did have 1 drop, but I think that was with Kyle Allen. It definitely wasn't on Kyle Allen. It was on him. I think it was just a classic drop, but still a fantastic game from JMO. And then the other amazing game came from Jahmyr Gibbs, like 1 week after what can only be assumed, like I think by the numbers, actually was his worst statistical game in his NFL career. Jahmyr Gibbs was absolutely insane. He had 172 total yards, 3 touchdowns. His 41st career touchdown, which joins Barry Sanders as the only Lions player to score 40 or more touchdowns within his first 3 seasons. And he joins a very, very elite group of other guys under their 24-year-old season, 24, I think. And he still has, I think his birthday is in March, so he still has like pretty much the rest of the year to get those numbers up and to beat Barry for that record. He had a phenomenal game.
Man, he's insane, and we knew it was going to be a bounce back. I mean, this guy is the best. If he's not the best, he's one of the best running backs in the league. Like, that's not a hot take. Everyone knows it. Look at the tape. He's incredible, man. And so you kind of knew he was going to bounce back. This Commanders defense was, it's pretty shot up right now. It wasn't even great at the beginning of the season. It's certainly, it's in a tailspin right now. So everyone thought he was going to have a big game, and he always delivers, man. I mean, on just 15 carries, 142 yards on the ground, multiple just long runs. His longest run was 43 yards. And yeah, just what can't this kid do? Like, he's exceptional.
Credit where credit's due. Credit to you. You called him as the matchup you were looking last week. The in between the lines, you called Jahmyr Gibbs for having a bounce back. That's an insane call. Yeah, we had the Washington defense reeling, and like, look, we're not going to sit here and act like we were playing the 2008 Patriots. Like, this defense is bad. This defense is really, really bad. I think it's the 4th game in a row the Commanders have lost by like 20 points or something like that. It's something crazy. It's a really, really bad defense. But still, I mean, we had them absolutely reeling. Like, we literally had them. They were getting unsportsmanlike conducts left and right. And while a few things have come up over the last few days of like maybe some ulterior angles and some Lions players poking the bear a little bit, if you don't get caught, I don't care about it. And so like we were poking them in the perfect times, and they were reacting, and they had guys literally throwing punches left and right and getting ejected. And we had that Washington Commanders defense literally quit in the first half. And so again, wasn't an elite defense, but still, I think we put everything together we needed to offensively to get back to Lions football, make us feel like, all right, this is where we need to be. Puts us right back on the that feeling of like we can make some noise in the postseason here.
Yeah, I mean, just by the numbers, 44 points, 546 yards, first downs, which like I did take a double take. I'm like, is that even possible? Like, yeah, 31st down, 6.8 yards per carry, 8 yards per play. It was just, they were having anything they wanted, they were taking. It was like when the varsity team in high school is scrimmaging like the JV team and just running all up and down the field. That's what it was on Sunday, and it was a lot of fun. Commanders players. I mean, I think if you're the Commanders, like you're downright embarrassed for multiple reasons. Yeah, you got a 40 burger put on you. That's not all you. It's also injuries, but I think what was really embarrassing was just, all the personal fouls that they were getting, bitching after the plays. Like, one guy, I don't even know who this guy was, but he jumps off sides, and then he's talking shit to Jared. Like, that makes no sense. And, like, the broadcaster called him out as it was happening, too. Like, as I was on my couch calling him out, like, dude, like, you're getting your ass kicked. Like, this is embarrassing, man. But from the Lions standpoint, it was a fucking awesome day.
just as a side point, it's always fun when you're sitting on your couch and you call something out, and then like immediately after the announcer calls the exact same thing out, and you're like, oh, I could do that job. But no, yeah, I mean, we had them reeling. Like they were in hell. I think if I don't know if it was worse for them being at home and like we went there and basically snatched their souls on their home turf, or if it would have been worse if we were in Detroit and they just had like the fans raining down on them. Like I don't know what would have been worse. Probably for them, probably would have been worse. It was worse being at home for them and us coming in and what do the kids say, take over their trap or whatever. But yeah,
well, can your trap
offensively,
take over your trap? I believe.
yeah, exactly. That's what we literally did. Offensively, we got everything we wanted. We even saw, like you said, scored on every possession. A few of them field goals that we couldn't punch in, which you put up 44, you'd take that. Kyle Allen ended up coming in, finished his day 0 for 2, but one of them was a drop by Jamison Williams. So I think it was a clear as day drop, so probably should have been 1 for 2. But offensively, yeah, I mean, everyone got involved. You had, like you said, we talked about Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5 catches, 58 yards. Kind of a quieter day, but like that's the thing when our offense is humming is that there's so many different guys you can go to, and that's the beauty of it. I think that's what makes it work so much, and we'll get into the play calling and the play style here in a little bit. But when it's rolling, there's so many mouths to feed that like you can have Amon-Ra St. Brown go for just under 60 yards and still be very successful. Laporta 53. Khalif Raymond had a really good day. We really went back to Khalif Raymond, 4 catches, 49 yards. He got a little banged up. I haven't seen anything on him. I saw he was kind of like waddling to the sideline. I don't know if it was like a Charlie horse maybe, or a kick in the nuts or something. He kind of was waddling. It was strange. Haven't seen anything about him. Isaac Tesla got back involved in the passing game, just 1 catch for 11 yards. But it kind of just seemed like everyone was getting involved, and the only one who really popped was JMO, which is like, and we still had put up 44 points, so a lot of mouths to feed. Everyone got a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a classic Lions game. I mean, I feel like this is something we've grown accustomed to from a fantasy football standpoint. Sometimes you're looking at this team and you're thinking, oh, they share the ball so well that, no one could just pop off at one time, except for, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs popped off on Sunday. But it's a classic Lions, team. This team is so unselfish. Like they're like, yeah, we're going to spread this ball out. We're going to beat you, 7 different ways on offense because we can. And that's exactly what we saw. Yeah. I thought, Sam Laporta had a great game too. Couple big catches. I feel like every time you need a third down conversion, like you were either going to St. Brown or Laporta, and one of those guys is always wide open every time. Like I don't know how it's possible to get that wide open on crucial third down plays. Granted, they're playing the Commanders, so that might be it. But yeah, man, just top to bottom, this is exactly what you want when you don't punt. When Jack Fox is just chilling, just basically on vacation on the sidelines, not even dreaming of getting in there. It's always a good Sunday, man.
Yeah, Jack Fox got the day off. Shout out to our buddy. I was watching the game with our buddy Chad, and every single time we went to third down, he called it exactly, which is so true. Like you mentioned, it's always the same thing on third down. It's Jamison Williams running just beyond the first down and turning around and having the ball right there, which he then can make that catch. It literally turn and get like 2 or 3 more yards. It's that one. It's Sam Laporta kind of going across the middle. Again, just going like to just short of the yardage to gain, catching the ball and just kind of like diving into the first down. He got it right every time. Every time third down came up, he was like, oh, it's Laporta up the middle, and Laporta would get it right there. Or James Williams on the sideline just beyond the sticks. And so shout out to him. He got him right every single time. It's nice having those safety blankets, and that's not even talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, like being able to go to him if for some reason both those guys are covered. You got Amon-Ra as a safety blanket, and that's just what this offense is when it's humming, when it's operating perfectly, and we're getting our blocks, we're getting our play calling and right. There's so many different safety blankets that offer you a lot of different things for Jared Goff, and that's when Jared Goff, I mean, obviously any quarterback would do extremely well with that many like safety blankets, but that's when Jared Goff puts up his MVP type numbers, is when he has all those options. He's getting the ball out fast, and there's not many defenses in the league that can stop an offense when you're rolling like that. So offense, top to bottom, really, really great. 14 in the first quarter, 11. One thing I loved how when we had their defense absolutely reeling and just like melting down after we scored that touchdown, we just randomly went for 2 for unless there was a reason that I didn't pick up on math wise. I didn't figure it out. I don't know why, other than I think we just went for 2 because they were getting guys ejected and we were putting pedal to the metal. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, so I actually like got up from the couch and I think I got like another bowl of soup or something. Shout out soup season. Yeah, and so literally like I got back and like they were walking in for the 2-point conversion. I'm like, well, what the hell? I just assumed they were going to kick the extra point, right? So yeah, I think it was a penalty that was accepted, and then taking that 2-point, basically, from the 2 to the 1 yard line or whatever that is. And so obviously you have a pretty good chance of scoring from the one. That's go for two there every time. So, yeah, it was just Lions being aggressive. That's what they do. Like if you give them anything, they're going to take a lot. So yeah, I think probably for me, closing thoughts on the offense, just the offensive line. I think just shout out to the offensive line. Penny was a beast all day. Went out with an injury, came right back in pretty much the next drive. I think it was just an ankle rolling that he got taped up. But I thought just the unit in general, just great pushes all day. Obviously, we talked about it, but protecting Jared Goff, very few pressures that I saw, and obviously 0 sacks. So, yeah, it was a bounce-back game for them, too. And granted, I think we have to take all this with a grain of salt. You're playing a team like the Commanders that are in a death spiral, so it's not to say that everything's going to be perfect. So we're going to break down next week's game. Huge game at the Eagles. That's just a different beast. You're going, again, hate to trip the Commanders too much, but you're literally going from JV to varsity when you're comparing the Commanders to the Eagles right now. It's just a fact of the matter where both those teams are right now in this season. So, yeah, certainly not perfect, but I thought absolutely great get-right game. It's exactly what we needed.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So yeah, just switching over to the defensive side. First half, I thought the defense looked really good. Second was definitely a little more lenient, I thought, but that was most likely a lot of the play calling, this kind of play script, just because it was just like we were up by so much. It was a lot of prevent defense. It was a lot of bend, don't break, but then we ended up breaking for some touchdowns. Like I felt like a lot of times, while I never was worried in this game whatsoever defensively, just based on how we were playing, the lead we had from the offense and how the Commanders' offense was working and actually how their defense was. There was a lot of times where I was like, all right, just like finish this game, put the dagger in, like steal their souls, let's end this game. And then they would get a first down or they would get a good chunk play, like 30 yards or whatever, and then they would punch it in. Like there was some times in the second half where I was like, all right, let's just stop playing with this. It almost, again, never felt like anything was up in the air or anything, but it was a little bit like I wanted our defense just to play a little bit better. Hutch had a pretty quiet day, I thought. He ended up with 0 tackles, one pass breakup, 1 QB hit. He did have, his obviously zero tackles, 0 sacks. He did have 1 sack that he had Mariota wrapped up, and Marcus was able to escape. But then Brian Branch was right there to the sack. So Branch got the credit for it, but it honestly should have at least some gone to Hutch because he had him dead to rights wrapped up, and Marcus barely escaped just to run into BB. But I thought the defense was definitely good in the first half, but then just kind of okay in the second half. We kind of let them move the ball a little more than I wanted to.
I think a lot of it's game script. Probably obvious take there, but most of the second half, 2 and 3 score games, or I think it got to like a 4-score game. So yeah, man. Like I don't know. It's hard to really evaluate that second half, knowing that the Commanders were never really in the game. I think at that point you're probably almost coached. Like, yeah, you don't want to change up what you're doing too much, because obviously it was a great first half. It was belt to ass, but I do think your coach, like, okay, this is the one thing you can't do is let the Commanders back in the game with big chunk plays. Like we're talking 60, 70 yards, whatever. So I think you're okay with letting up a few of those 15-yard chunks, 20-yard chunks, and just making sure that they don't take the top off. Not that the Commanders showed any life or any sign of doing that for pretty much the entire game. But yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't think the guys were going through the motions in the second half, but maybe just a little bit more than they were in the first half when they know it's a 3-score game. So hard for me to evaluate that. What I did like even in the second half, I mean, I thought that the run defense was phenomenal. Holding Washington to 3.4 yards per carry. Granted, not a great run offense for Washington. We said that in our preview last week. I think they're like a bottom third in maybe the bottom quarter of the league in that department. But either way, I thought that the run defense was awesome. And I want to give a shout out to Jack Campbell, man. I thought that he was exceptional all day. He has been all season, really blossoming in front of our eyes as one of the best linebackers in the league. I think I can confidently say that. Probably have said it a few times on this pod previously, but he was flying around there. Just huge stops on the goal line, huge tackles. It seems like he could do everything, man. He can cover. He's great in the run game, great in QB contain, which is really important for when you have a quarterback like Marcus Mariota, who does still have legs even at his age. Just want to give him a shout out, man. I thought that kid was exceptional, and just what a fantastic draft pick he's been.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I think he's top 5 in pass coverage for linebackers and run defense for linebackers as well, like you said.
Yeah.
It was one play when right on the goal line, it was literally one-on-one, and they met him and Campbell, and I don't remember if it was Bill Costume or Merritt or whatever his name is, or Nichols or whoever it was, met just one-on-one at the goal line, and Campbell literally just stood him up and pushed him directly back. It was such a sick play, like one-on-one, and just absolutely dominated. Yeah, he was really great. Marcus Mariota had that one scramble where he tried to hurdle a few guys and ended up just kind of jumping in the air into them. So yeah, the defense was great. I mean, you mentioned the long plays. You had three different guys receiving wise for the Commanders go for decently long plays. You had Treylon Burks, who is not very good, I guess we should say, had a long of 37. Zach Ertz had a long of 30. Jalen Lane, again, another nobody, had a one catch, 41 yards. So, a few guys went for some big ones. Those are the ones I was talking about. Like, those are the ones that kind of not kept them in the game, but like kept us from really just truly like rubbing this one in. But other than that, yeah, they were great. Their run defense was great. Jack Campbell was great. Terrion Arnold was fantastic again. I think it was his highest PFF game of his career until he went out with a concussion. I haven't seen whether he's going to be good to go for this week, but we'll try and follow that throughout the week. But yeah, defense, it wasn't, like I said, really hard to evaluate. It was really hard to predict this game because of all the injuries, and then again, hard to evaluate because of the blowout. So not really much more that needs to be said other than the play calling. So anything you want to talk about before we get into the whole play calling, changing of the guard there?
Just a quick shout out, Thomas Harper, man, 6 solo tackles, which actually led the team. Jack Campbell had 9 total, which led in that department as well. But yeah, Thomas Harper was all over the field. So yeah, shout out to that kid.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into, like we said, the main storyline from this. Dan Campbell taking over the play calling. We brought it up last week. I mentioned that maybe it was going to happen. It kind of was a similar thing with Anthony Lynn a few years ago, in which the offense just was not doing anything. Like, it was very stagnant. It was just ugly as stale. And Dan Campbell took over. And that's when we kind of learned of Dan Campbell's play calling abilities and how much of an offensive mind he is. I brought up that how he is this anomaly of a person that, like, you don't think he can really call a game script that beautifully, but he really can. And so he did. He kind of was weird how it came out because it wasn't initially said. He hinted at it last week saying, like, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a chance there's some changing that could happen. We didn't know if it was like some changing in players, some changing in schemes. It sounds obviously ended up being changing in the play calling. But Dan Campbell, and then actually nothing was really confirmed until middle of the game when we saw him, literally everyone saw him with the glasses talking into the microphone or into the headset, and everyone's like, I think he's calling these plays. But it was so obvious that he was calling it. Like, immediately, we mentioned this felt like an offensive game from the Lions that we have come to know and love. So we averaged 8 yards per play, which is the 6th highest total for any offense against any opponent in the NFL this season. Kind of an asterisk there that Johnny Morton actually owns the number 1 this season against the Bears a few weeks ago, so kind of doesn't age the well there. But like, we saw Jared Goff play so well against the Commanders, specifically against their pass rush by throwing quick passes under usually about 2.5 seconds. He was 48.5% of his attempts, completing 14 of 16 such passes for 191 yards, the 5th most by any QB in a game this season, and 3 touchdowns. Like, This he just knows how Jared Goff works. He knows, Jared Goff said after the game, Dan Campbell knows when to push and when to pull. Like, he just works to Jared Goff's strengths so well. And that if you need more evidence, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that was all the evidence you should need.
Absolutely, man. I just loved what I saw the entire game. They were bringing out different sets, jumbo sets sometimes, which I really like, just getting the big tight ends in there.
Dan Skipper at receiver.
Yeah, Skipper at receiver was just wild. Yeah,
I love that. That was last year. That's what we had last year. We love that.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I love that. It seemed like we were mixing it up more. Running out of pass sets, passing out of run sets. Really keeping the opposing defense on their toes a little bit more. I did love, and I saw some great breakdowns on Instagram after, but just showing multiple actions out of one play, kind of setting up things for for later on in the game. I thought Dan did a great job at that, and yeah, man, it was fantastic, dude. Like, and this is not the first time that Dan Campbell has called plays for the Lions. He has taken over as the play caller multiple times. And even, he said it in his presser, but even when Ben Johnson was appointed offensive coordinator, DC was actually calling, Campbell was actually calling plays for the first like 8 or 9 games of the season before, Ben really, got his feet wet, and started calling them himself. And obviously we know how that ended. Ben Johnson, now he's a head coach for a reason, man. But, so I think he definitely learned a lot under Dan Campbell. And so, yeah, man, I would love to see him continue calling plays. He is good at it. Obviously small sample size here. You're playing the Commanders. We'll see if Dan can call a great game against the Eagles. I think that he can. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, man, I loved what I saw, and yeah, that's it for me.
I mean, how much? Stop us if you heard this before. Lions excel, specifically Jared Goff excels on the play action. This past week, Lions ranked 3rd among all teams with play action rate at 22.1%. They entered the week at 18th in the NFL at 15%. So obviously, bottom half of the NFL doing play action rate. When we know Jared Goff plays really well in that. When the Lions have a play action rate of above 20%, we're 3-0, and we average 44.3 points per game. Like, the numbers are all there. And we've seen it, and the proof is there. The numbers are there. It was what we were concerned about with Johnny Morton a little bit, and that like when he was with the Jets, he was fired or let go of his duties because of quote unquote differences with players. He was pretty hard headed. He had some different opinions, and some players just didn't want to play for him. Kind of got that same feeling this past week in his press conference. He immediately threw our entire offensive line under the bus, and by saying like, I schemed a good game. They just honestly didn't block. Almost word for word, he said that. Like, literally could not have thrown the guys under the bus more, which is so not Dan Campbell like. It's weird that Dan Campbell sees a guy like that, and someone who's so much about culture would let something like that go. And while he's not wrong, I'm sure that actually he is kind of wrong, because we broke down the passes, the plays that were called, the deep passes against a blitz heavy defense that just doesn't work very well. So like, he was wrong. The blocking also wasn't there, but like, that's not how you treat your offensive linemen. And they definitely took notice. They all came out and like basically said like, no, we did what we could. Like, yeah, we didn't play well, but like, you don't need to throw us under the bus. So like, Johnny Morton, I don't know what you're going to do now. Moving forward, Dan Campbell has said he's going to continue calling the plays. Shout out to Dan Campbell for like not trying to be like to stick by his guns and be like, I hired him for a reason. Like, I wasn't wrong in that hire. He saw the issue. He corrected the issue. My question is, if Dan Campbell's going to continue to call the plays, I was just kind of thinking like, that's a lot to do for a head coach. How many of these other head coaches are also calling plays for their offense? So it turns out 18 of 32 head coaches handle the offensive play calling.
Yeah,
4 of the top 5 offenses do the play calling, and then 10 of the top 14 playoff teams also have their head coach calling their offensive plays. So it's definitely doable. It's definitely normal in the NFL. And so like, I definitely want Dan Campbell to continue. I don't know what Johnny Morton's future is going to be after the season. I don't know if he's still going to be here in Detroit. I don't know if we maybe look to replace him with someone like Brian Dable, maybe a Mike McDaniel if he gets fired from the Dolphins, like these guys that just maybe didn't make it as head coaches, but we know are pretty good offensive minds. I don't know, but all I know is Dan Campbell better call our plays for the rest of the year, or else the season's toast.
Yeah, for sure, man. Just think about it from like a continuity standpoint too. It's great having your head coach call your plays too. If he's good at it. Obviously, if he sucks, then he sucks, and he's probably going to get fired, right? But all of these, offensive masterminds who have been with their teams for years and years, looking at like Andy Reid, even a Sean McVay, even Kyle Shanahan, like those are just a couple that come to mind. But yeah, they're all calling their own plays, and they're sticking around. They're good at it, and you never have to worry about your coach, your offensive coordinator going and get snaked by the Bears or anything like that. You have your guy, and he's good at what he does, and you got that continuity. So I've always said I wish that our head coach called plays, and that was during the Ben Johnson saga, where every year you don't know if he's going to leave, and of course last year he finally did leave. So yeah, I would love for Dan Campbell to continue to excel at this, because again, small sample size with the Commanders game. But I would love for him to continue to excel and continue to call plays for this team.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even really think about that, because if he has the ability to and focus on other things, I definitely want him to. So we probably should move on. We can talk about this all day. We can talk about Dan Campbell play calling. We can talk about the Lions review game against the Commanders all day. If you guys do want to hear more about that and continue talking about that, make sure you're calling into the listener voicemail. That number is 313-67939. Give us your thoughts on the play calling. Give us your thoughts on who should be calling the plays. give us your thoughts on the games and everything. Make sure you guys are calling into that. We'll play the voicemails on the show and discuss them. But let's go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we will be breaking down the preview game against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, welcome back. Lions beat the Commanders last week. We now, I think you and I actually technically both called a must-win last week, just because it was like if we had lost that game, it would have been backbreaking. Coming off the loss against the Vikings, obviously we won in tremendous fashion. Now we go to Lincoln Financial Sunday night, 8:20 game against the Eagles. Kyle, guess the line. What's it going to be for Detroit?
At the link, Lions. This is a tricky one because I think most of us watched that Monday Night Football game last night, and yeah, or 2 nights ago as you're listening to this, but yeah, Eagles look like shit, Packers look like shit, which that's awesome just to say those two sentences out loud. Like, fuck those two teams. So the fact that they both laid eggs, I definitely like seeing that. I do think, the Eagles, especially their defense, they have a fantastic defense. It's on the road, Sunday Night Football. I feel like this is still a game that the Eagles are favored. I think it's going to be razor close. My guess is going to be Eagles -1.5.
Yeah, that's a great guess. I probably would put it there. And this is kind of the same thoughts of like my game entirely. It's just like I think the record and just the Eagles name gives me a little more hesitancy in this game and I think Vegas kind of feels the same way because right now the spread is the Detroit Lions plus 2.5. So they have the spread a little bit more, pretty close like you said. But again, that's similar to like my thoughts and like Eagles are 7-2. That's obviously a really good record. They're still the Eagles. Like the play, I don't think necessarily matches the Philadelphia Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles or the 7-2 Philadelphia Eagles, but at the same time, they're still them. So I kind of agree with the Vegas 2.5. But if you were to say 1.5, I wouldn't look at you elsewhere. There. Jumping into the offensive side for us, Eagles went out and did kind of what we wanted them. We wanted the Lions to do on their defensive side. They went out and bolstered their team. Went out and got Jalen Phillips. He had a fantastic game for the Eagles against the Packers. Obviously, pretty much everyone on both defenses had a really great game because the offenses were non-existent. So our offensive line going up against a kind of rejuvenated defensive line that you mentioned is already a good defensive line. Now you're adding Jalen Phillips. It'll be a real test for this Lions offensive line that, like you mentioned in the review, Penei went out with an injury for last week, ended up coming back, but Taylor Decker is kind of always hurt. Graham Glasgow, I think he took a elbow or something to the back, and he kind of banged up a little bit. So like this offensive line is banged up, going up against a really good defensive line. So it's a little bit concerning. But just to kind of nerd out for a second on these numbers. So Philadelphia is 10th in opponent points per game, which is slightly better than Detroit at 13th. They're 4th in opponent red zone scoring per game, only allowing touchdowns in 48% of red zone trips. And they're really stout on fourth down conversions allowed. Basically, if we're going for it on fourth down, their defense is really good at stopping that, which makes sense with that great defensive line. However, they are right in the middle of the pack and yards per game. Philly gives up. And then third down conversions, they're pretty much in the middle of the pack and or towards the back of the NFL. So if you get to third down, they're letting you convert a little bit more. Get to fourth down, it's almost non-existent to convert against this team. And then the final kind of nerd out stat about this Philly defense. Their defense, for some reason, plays really well in the second quarter. They are one of the best teams in the NFL at stopping opposing teams from scoring in the second quarter. All the other three quarters, first, third, and fourth, they're right to the middle of the pack and allowing offensive scoring. Just some reason in the second down, they kind of settle in, and right before halftime, they kind of limit the offensive scoring. So this Lions offense has their job cut out for them this week.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to that. Maybe there is. Maybe they're coached harder, or they just try harder, right before halftime. But that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think that if you look at the numbers, you're like, wow, this Eagles defense, like it's not that great. It's middle of the pack, 18th in passing, 19th in rushing. But you look at them last three games, only 16 points per game allowed during this 3-game win streak that they're on. So, and obviously, you talked about it, Tyler, but they did get reinforcements at the trade deadline. And Phillips looked awesome against the Packers on Monday night. So that would have been awesome, right? If the Lions would have had a little bit of that. Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. We have our team, they have theirs. I think that I'm gonna say it, Tyler. This is a must-win for the Lions. I'm saying it right now. Like this is a game where if you want to be top dog, obviously this isn't a must-win from a standpoint of like the playoffs. They can easily still get in, but if you want to be top dog in the NFC, this is a game that you have to win, especially a game where the Packers already lost on last Monday, so they dropped down to third in the North. If you want that one seed, you got to win this game. So yeah, I'm deeming this a must win.
I agree with you. I mean, we just made up some ground, like you said, with the Packers. We can't immediately give that back. Looking ahead to the schedule, just after this, you have the Giants, Packers on Thanksgiving. Then you have Cowboys, the Rams, who look better than anyone. Like if you want the past few weeks, Johnny Morton has scarred me tremendously. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we had our overreaction Wednesday. Like I was off the Super Bowl train. I did not think based on that team, and I don't think that's a hot take. I think we were playing terribly. Offense was non-existent. Like I don't think that's a hot take. I was not believing that this team was a Super Bowl contending team. Last week gave me a little bit more hope. You come out and you beat the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm right back on. And you do it like in the Dan Campbell fashion, offensively scoring. You got different sets going, running, like you said, running out of passing sets, passing out of running sets, getting all the different guys involved, mixing things up. I'm right back in with the Super Bowl contention kind of talk there. So I agree with you. I think this is a must win, if nothing else for morale's sake. And like, do I think we can actually do it? And if say you play the same game we played last week, offense looks great, defense maybe you could use some help, but at the end of the day, looks great, and you lose on a last minute field goal. It's gonna suck, but like at least I'll believe in the offense once again, and back-to-back games like that against a good defense. I'm right back in on that side. So yeah, offensively, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with you on that.
Yeah, and I think just looking at the Lions offense now, we did a pretty good job breaking down the Eagles defense. But I think in a tight game like this, I think it's going to come down to turnover margin. So taking care of the ball is critical. Jared's been very good at that. Throughout his career, he's been good at taking care of the ball. But he is prone to the pick every once in a while, fumbling every once in a while. So yeah, this is a game, especially. I mean, I don't know the weather report, but I feel like it's going to be cold in Philly. It's always cold in Philly this time of year. So yeah, it's not to say that Jared can't play well in the cold. He has. But yeah, this is going to be a different beast. Yeah, the link is a different beast. So yeah, I think take care of the ball. You got to try to establish the run if you can. I know this Lions offensive line is banged up, but really we have seen the Lions offense struggle when they can't establish the run. They're gonna struggle. If you're one dimensional, it's hard to win in this league when you're one dimensional. So yeah, I think that's probably a couple of keys to the game for me.
Yeah, I love that. Jumping over to the Lions defensive side, looking at the Eagles offense, they got a lot of mouths to feed. They got just as many weapons as the Lions do. Obviously, they have Devontae Smith, who's having a career year. Saquon Barkley, always one of the best running backs in the NFL. A.J. Brown, who has immense talent, but they don't always use him properly. This Eagles scoring is right in the middle of the pack at 12, but then obviously you have the opportunity, they have the chance and the ability to kind of go off. They're number one in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentages, scoring on almost 81% of their red zone trips, which is, I mean, it makes sense. The Commanders were very similar last week, obviously when they had Jaden Daniels, because they both have QBs that are very mobile. You get in the red zone, you have to really watch the QBs scrambling out, and then if they get within obviously the 1 through 3 yard line, they're going to do their illegal tush push, and so they're going to punch it in. So they're really, really good in the red zone. They're 8th on 4th down conversions. Again, with their tush push, it's really hard to stop them there. But they're bottom half in the league in yards per game, just 23rd with 303 yards per game. Third down conversions, they're 27th, just converting a third down on 34%. Obviously, then, like I said, they're then converting on fourth down. And then similar to their defense playing really, really good ball in the second quarter, Philly has a tendency to score most of their points in the first quarter and then slow down kind of as the game goes. So in points per quarter in the NFL, they're 4th in scoring in the first quarter, 19th in the second quarter, 15th in the third quarter, and then 24th in the fourth. So you kind of weathered the storm in the first quarter. Defense got to go all out, stop them any way you can in the first quarter, and then naturally they're going to slowly slow down throughout the rest of the game. But there's a lot of guys that are questionable. I think we're going to be getting a lot of guys back this week. Terry and Arnold, again, questionable with a concussion. Kirby Joseph, I think, was pretty much a game time decision last week, so I'm assuming you're going to get him back for this upcoming week. Marcus Davenport was cleared to play. I don't know if we're going to get him again. You don't know on the Eagles offensive side, Cam Jurgens, their center, went down with a knee injury. He's questionable, so you don't know if he's going to end up playing. There's a lot of question marks, but again, it's almost like their reputation. I'm afraid of the reputation, but then you watch their offense that they, like you said, they just played the Packers, and it was non-existent. So it's like, we don't need to be afraid of the reputation. We just got to take care of the game on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think a lot of that spread has got to be because they're at home,
Yeah.
in prime time, and yeah, reputation is, there's something to be said, like when a team continually beats another team, and the Lions have not beaten the Eagles I think since like 2019. Granted, these teams don't play each other super often, but that definitely comes into play. Even though obviously this is a completely different Lions team, twice over than in 2019, but yeah, I don't know, you just. You got to. It starts with stopping Saquon. That's super obvious. But he's been relatively quiet this season, just 549 yards on the ground, 4 scores. So compared to Mr. 2,000 yard last year, he has been quiet, but he's still Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles they're gonna feed him. So yeah, it starts with selling out the run, but I just feel like this Eagles offense. Other than that, you talk about a one-dimensional offense. This team can't throw the fucking ball. Like they've struggled to throw the ball all season. They rank 24th in the NFL, 193 yards per game through the air. Like that's almost embarrassing, man, for a team with Super Bowl aspirations, and you can't even throw the ball. So again, I'm probably going to eat my words. Jalen Hurts is probably going to throw for like 500 yards and 18 touchdowns on Sunday. But yeah, man, I don't know, man. I don't quite see the spread. I know I guessed Philly -1.5. A lot of that I think is because they're at home, but I think this is a game that the Lions win. It's a must win. We've deemed it a must win. I think they're going to kick Philly's ass, man.
I mean, the name goes with like Jalen Hurts as well. Like Jalen Hurts, I mean, everyone, they have so many weapons, so much talent, but then they're not putting it together, but they're still the big names, so it's hard to pick against them. I mean, hey, Lions, I know a lot of you are listening to the show right now. You heard it here first. It's a must win. You got to win this game. You got to win this game to get us back on board with the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl talk making us feel more comfortable. So let's win this game. Let's win this game in commanding fashion. I don't want to. Let's have another, after the terrible Monday night game last night, 2 nights ago, when you're listening to this, let's have a nice high scoring, on our side at least, easy, comfortable win in this game. Anything in closing before we jump over to some other Detroit? Oh, I have one more thing. Do you have anything else for this game?
Yeah, just one thing. Like, yeah, so the Eagles defense, obviously, it's very, very good. I do think that Jared Goff's going to have just a much better time navigating this Eagles defense than Jordan Love did. Like, I watched that game and I'm like, Jordan Love fucking stinks, dude. And like, he's not able to call audibles at the line. Like, you got Eagles defensive linemen like clearly calling out like this is an inside zone on a key 4th down in the 4th quarter. And like literally Love is just, oh, fine, I'm just going to snap the ball anyways. Like, it makes no sense. I think that, Dan Campbell's going to be able to scheme this offense so much better than the Packers could last night. I think that we're going to be able to move the ball. Like, and if the Lions move the ball, they're winning this game. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts, man.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. The last thing, just kind of miscellaneous Lions news. I think he was the 6th round draft pick, Ahmed Hassanin, back on the practice squad. He was some guy that was getting a lot of praise coming out of training camp. It was said to be like the savior, the help that we were desperately needing on the defensive line to help Aiden Hutchinson. He was a guy that was lighting up the practice squad. He was playing really well. Unfortunately, went down with an injury, and then he's been battling back. Now he was just added back to the practice squad. There's some red tape and stuff around that, but he is back. Don't think we're going to get him at all this year, but just so we know he's back on the practice squad. Hopefully we can get him back and healthy for next year. Maybe a playoff run, who knows? But that was only sort of miscellaneous item for the Detroit Lions as they continue their season here.
Before we wrap up, between the Lions, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, we already talked tremendously about it. I'm going to go with the Lions defensive line going against Saquon. You already mentioned Saquon not having the greatest of seasons, but at the end of the day, he is still one of the best running backs in the entire NFL. Their offensive line may be a little bit hurt, like I said, with Cam Jurgens being questionable. This defensive line and linebacker core containing the running, making Jalen Hurts throw the ball. And, I think that's how you win this game. So that's the matchup I'm looking at. That's my in between the Lions.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'm going between the Lions. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go complete opposite. Lions offensive line versus Eagles D line. I think the Eagles D line is one of their better units. Really top to bottom, this Eagles defense is great. They got great cornerbacks too. Quinyon Mitchell is just an awesome second year player. But I'm keen to look at the Eagles D line, who they're filled with dogs, by the way. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis on the interior, then on the outside, Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat. Like, I think all those guys are healthy. Maybe one of those guys has picked up an injury, but either way, they're a force to be reckoned with. So, this Lions offensive line that's been banged up, like how are they how are they going to go toe to toe with these guys? Again, like I said, like if the Eagles D line can stifle the run, it's going to be a long day. And I think at that point, you're probably not, leaving the link with a win. So, yeah, this is a big test for the Lions O-line that's been banged up.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to some other Detroit sports. Before we do that, you have a quick word from some sponsors.
Yes, sir. So this Detroit sports segment is brought to you by Cozy Earth. New sponsor alert. Shout out Cozy Earth. So Cozy Earth's luxurious bamboo and bedding and pajamas, loved by Oprah, Kris Jenner, and thousands of customers, offers the ultimate in softness and cooling comfort. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount with promo code GRIT. That's promo code GRIT at CozyEarth.com for 41% off your first purchase. Shout out Cozy Earth. I'm pumped. I think I'm gonna be ordering some bedding. I think I'm past due. It sounds fantastic. So shout out to them.
Yeah, Christmas right on the corner. Get your loved ones some stuff from them. So starting with the Detroit Pistons, right now they are just as hot as can be. They won last night, 2 nights ago when you're listening to this, against the lowly Washington Wizards, even though they're the lowly Wizards. We were so decimated with injuries, and they still found a way to basically hit it. I mean, they hit a buzzer beater to send it to overtime and then win it in overtime. They have the second best record in the entire NBA, not just the Eastern Conference, not just their division, in the entire NBA at 9-2, first place in the East, 7-game win streak. This is the best record for the Detroit Pistons through 10 games since they started 9-1 back in 2005, 2006, back with the going to work Pistons. They are firing on all cylinders. Everyone's playing their part perfectly. What's the best for me is all this internal improvement that we've seen, which is something that they've kind of hung their hat on, and like they were expecting and hoping their own guys are going to improve internally. Asar he's been good. I don't think he's taken a major step since last year. He's still 8th in the NBA in defensive rating in the NBA. But you look at guys like Ron Holland, who's playing legit minutes, doing a little bit of everything, being a little more offensive-mindedly. Fourth quarter Cade is MVP. He's insane. Last night he was double teamed on 35.3% of touches, which is the most of all time in NBA history in one single game. No player has been double teamed more in a game than he was last night, and he still put up 40 plus points. Jalen Duren is easily the front runner for most improved player in the entire NBA. He's averaging 19.4 points per game on 71.2% true shooting, almost 12 rebounds per game, 1 steal per game, 1.3 blocks per game, all of which are career best. And he's 5th in defensive rating in the NBA. His defense is starting to come around. He's playing insane. We're going to get Jaden Ivey back in about 2 to 3 weeks. Everyone's playing great. And this Pistons defense is so much fun to watch. I don't care who they're playing, what time of night it is. I'm watching them every single night.
Dude, it's must-see television, man. These guys are buzzing, and I love that they're doing it on the defensive end. Obviously, last night's game goes to overtime. They're missing like a bunch of starters, so probably throw that out there. But I think going into last night's game, they were giving up just 110 points per game, which was, I think, like second or third best in the league. I think just behind maybe the Thunder or the Spurs, but they're right up there. So yeah, they're getting it done on defense, man. The offense hasn't been perfect. They're like, run of the mill in the NBA, but of course they are doing it without, probably their second best scorer, Jaden Ivey, who he was a go-to guy last year when you needed a bucket, when you needed, a fourth quarter clutch bucket. It was often Jaden, not Cade, who was taking that shot. So to get him back, I'm literally salivating at the mouth getting Jaden Ivey back. They're doing a lot of this without Tobias Harris too. Like, he's been out for a while. So getting both those guys back, I love that they're still winning despite not having those key pieces. They're just getting it done, man. And JB Bickerstaff has this team buzzing, and it's must see television.
He has them with the perfect mentality. I mean, this is back-to-back coaches with Dan Campbell and JB Bickerstaff that have made the identity of this team match the city and just this like tough, hard-nosed defensive team. And the offense is struggling a little bit. So right now, I mean, you walked through the games. Right now, we're points per game 17th in the NBA with 116.1. Opponents' points per game were third with 110.5, like you said. So like the defense definitely is way ahead of the offense, but maybe some offensive help is on its way, like you said, with Jaden, in the form of Jaden Ivey. The other form is Malik Beasley. So you and I both been huge Beasley guys. Like, we've kind of just been waiting for the NBA's investigation to finish up. But the big question was when Malik Beasley does end up coming back, and when he gets cleared, does he want to play in Detroit? That was kind of a big thing. He definitely played himself onto any team that would really, he wants to, would probably take him. That's kind of been cleared away over the last week or so. He's been just going crazy talking about Detroit. He very much said he's going to be coming back to Detroit if he plays in the NBA again. He went on a live, I don't know if it's Twitter live or anything. He went on last week and asked like what his new number in Detroit should be because Ron technically has his old number. And then he said, quote unquote, when Ivy and I come back, we're winning a championship. Like he said straight up, if I come back to the NBA, I'm going back to Detroit. So he's coming back to Detroit as long as the team will have him, which I don't know why they wouldn't. The offense needs a little bit of help. Cade took 45 shots last night against the Wizards, which was most in NBA history. He needs help, so I don't know why you wouldn't have him, and he wants to come in Detroit. So more offensive help is on the way. If you sign Malik Beasley and add him to this team, like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, the East is ours. Like this team, maybe we're overperforming a little bit now, but you add Malik in there and then you get everyone healthy, this overperformance becomes a reality and becomes an every night kind of thing.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. Like you're looking at the East too, and you're licking your chops. We talked about this in the offseason where like this could be the time for the Pistons to go all in just because the East is down right now with teams like Boston who are in like a mini rebuild without Tatum. Bunch of other teams just either underperforming or even like the Pacers, Halliburton goes down in the finals last year. They're going to be in a mini rebuild. They're 1-9 on the season. So teams that were basically best in the East last year are now taking a massive step back. And even young teams like the Magic just haven't quite put it all together yet. You got teams like the Atlanta Hawks who pretty much a perennial play-in team, but I think they're playing without Trae Young right now. So yeah, the East is so wide open, and man, this Pistons team, the sky's the limit. If Beasley comes back and if he's even 3/4 of what we saw last year where he damn near led the league in 3 points made, this team and Ivy comes back, obviously it's a big if Ivy comes back and doesn't skip a beat, but there's really no reason to think that he won't. This team's fucking scary, man. I am so pumped for it.
So they're in first place in their division, obviously first place in the East. When was the last time we've had all four major sports? I think at one point in the short season, beginning of the season, the Red Wings were in first place in the division. Maybe not. At the very least, the Tigers were in first place for much of the year. The Lions are currently in first place in the division. The Pistons are in first place in the East. When was the last time we had this many first place teams in Detroit? It was so dark for so long. It's so nice just to have some first place teams, even if it is just the beginning of the season. We're only 10 games into the season, but like we said, a lot to like from it and a lot more coming. It's nice to have some first place teams here in Detroit.
I will say we've never had all four teams firing this well, and it hasn't been perfect. I think the Wings have lost a couple games in a row, but yes, after the first 3 weeks of the season, they were still standing atop first place in the Atlantic there, so they've been playing pretty well. Yeah, I mean we've never been able to say the Lions have been in first place in their division until 2 years ago, 3 years ago when we reclaimed the North, and we're not giving it back, Packers fans. Fuck you. Little sidebar there, but yeah, man, this is incredible. 9-2. I can't stop looking at the Eastern Conference standings and just seeing the Pistons there at 9-2 with an 8.18 win percentage.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Like games back 0, they're in first place. Like I can't stop looking at it.
Book it now. Cade Cunningham, starter for the All-Star team. Jalen Duren, reserve on the All-Star team. Jalen Duren, most improved player this year. Book it all now. Cade going to be up there top 3 of MVP voting, but we got to keep going. We got so much to keep talking about. So let's move over to the Tigers. This got brushed under the rug a little bit because it is very, very close after the season ends. Their free agency window opens. It's kind of interesting how they do that. Most other teams and leagues have a little bit of downtime before they jump back into it. But the MLB free agency opened up already. We have a few awards that the Tigers won, whether you think they're deserving of it or not. It's Zach McKinstry and Riley Green winning Silver Slugger awards. Dylan Dingler winning the Gold Glove award. I think Dylan Dingler definitely is deserving of the Gold Glove. I don't necessarily think Zach McKinstry and Riley Green are, maybe Riley deserving of a Silver Slugger. He did hit, all the home runs he did, but his strikeouts for me just really puts a big old asterisk and a little damper on that. But, Zach McKinstry, they still won it. Still, we had two Silver Sluggers and one Gold Glove winner on this team, which makes sense. We were in first place for most of the year, so shout out to them. But yeah, free agency started. So a few just notes that the Tigers have gone on and done. We tendered a qualifying offer to Gleyber Torres, a 1-year deal worth, I think, $22.5 million. Essentially, basically allowing him to come back. He can decide to take it or test a free agency. I read today that Gleyber and his camp are still weighing that option, weighing that for that 1 year deal, or seeing if he wants to maybe go elsewhere. I kind of can go either way. I really enjoyed Glaber here in Detroit, but I also think we have guys like Kevin McGonigal coming up, who plays the same position. Colt Keith, who's currently playing out of position because Glaber is at second base and refuses to play anywhere else. So like I would love Glaber here again if he decides to turn down the qualifying offer and go elsewhere. No harm, no foul. But then the other major thing that came out of Detroit, it was leaked that both Detroit wants Tarik Skubal back in Detroit for long term, which is kind of more than we've heard in the past about these things. They said they actively want him in Detroit basically forever. And we also heard that Tarik also wants to stay in here in Detroit. So you have both sides coming out and saying they both want to be here in Detroit. That's a big difference that, in making the numbers work and everything, but it at least is a good start, a good step in the right direction for keeping Tarik here in Detroit for long term, keeping the best pitcher in baseball here in Detroit long term.
Shit, lot to unpack there. You basically just covered the entire Tigers offseason in like 2 minutes there, so props to you, Tyler. I had one thing to say on Gleyber Torres. I would like to see him back. I think that he was battling an injury towards the very, last month of the season, and it was tough on him, but he was, throughout most of the season, he was incredible. I know you mentioned Kevin McGonigal coming up. He's, natural shortstop, which, possibly if Glaber's gone, you could move Colt Keith to second base, and there you go. You have your middle infielders there. But I do think that McGonigal, like he's probably not going to be a day one starter. I think that having that presence of Gleyber Torres for at least one more year is going to make a lot of sense. Now, do I think that Glaber's going to take that 1 year deal? No, I think he's earned way more than that. Yeah, not the end of the world if he walks there. But yeah, probably much bigger news. Tarik Skubal. Before I get to him, just want to say Dylan Dingler. Shout out to Dylan Dingler, Gold Glove. I think he cut down like 37% of base runners stealing, which is just an insane clip. Just throwing frozen ropes. He's just, I think he's the best defensive catcher in the entire league. Like, I know he obviously Gold Glove American League, but no one does it better. I mean, his arm is just insanely strong. So love to see that on top of having a plus bat for a catcher. So shout out the Dillinger, Dylan Dingler. But yeah. Tarik Skubal, I've said it before, man. Blank check. Like, give him whatever he wants. I don't care if there's an impending lockout. I don't care about his age. Like, this is just such a no-brainer in a league that, at least right now, there is no salary cap. So, I mean, you're operating that there won't be in the future. I don't know if maybe they'll come to an agreement, on a salary cap in the future. But right now, there's none. I think you get the deal done, and you're still not even close to sniffing, what the Mets or the Dodgers pay for their payroll. Keep him in Detroit, man. If he walks, I'll be more than pissed. Like I might have to boycott for a little bit, man. Like, this is such a no-brainer to just pay the man what he wants because he's earned it. And I feel like they're not going to do it. I feel like next year we're going to see him in a different uniform, and I'm probably going to just not watch baseball for a bit.
Well, yeah, it was reported that at the very least the Tigers are not going to trade him this winter. If they do trade him, it won't come until next trade deadline, which is in July. So that runs the risk of him coming out this season and getting an injury or something and drastically diminishing his trade value. Then you suddenly got to trade him for whatever you can get for him, or you just kind of like ride it out and you lose him for nothing. So there's a ton of risk to it. But I think at the end of the day, he wants to be here. I do think after all the success Detroit is having, I think the Tigers will figure it out and sign him long term. I believe that in my heart of hearts. I hope on top of that, my perfect offseason, on top of that, you add a number 2 pitcher. I don't really necessarily. I think you have a great 3-4-5 in 3-4-5-6 essentially in Casey Mize, Reese Olson, Jack Flaherty, Jackson Joe. I think that's a really great 3-4-5-6-7. However we want to go, because there's injuries and stuff. I don't necessarily think any of them are number 2 pitchers, so I really want them this offseason. My perfect offseason, go out and get a number 2 pitcher, someone that you can really trust, a Ranger Suarez, someone maybe not quite at that high, but someone who can be a headliner, number 2 pitcher. And then you need another bat, whether that's you break the bank for a Bo Bichette, you bring Bregman back here, you go out and get like Kyle Tucker, even though the outfield's a little bit crowded at the moment. Like, I need a number 2 pitcher and another feared bat in which opposing managers are managing around and pulling pitchers and moving things around in order to face that guy in a certain way. That's my perfect sort of off season, if you will. Will it happen? I don't know. I hope. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's bat one, and then pitchers would be great. I think if you're looking at last season and thinking, the Tigers had no pitching. Well, it was due to injury, right? Like, so if you're basically a Jackson Jobe, injury away, or a Reese Olson had a fantastic season before he got injured. Like, those guys are coming back, man. And like, I think either of those guys could be, great number 2 guys, going forward. Maybe not last year, but they're both young guys and getting better, especially Jobe. So, I think you could see him turn into your number 2 go-to guy. Obviously, Mize was awesome. So for me, I mean, it wasn't so much the pitching, except for injuries, which, it's pretty unlucky at the end of the day there. But it's the bats where, like, I mean, you're looking at that lineup top to bottom, and like, you you need bats. There's a reason why you struggled the last 2 months of the season. It's because the bats just weren't good enough. So I think, if you go out and get a Bregman, someone who can really just solidify the top half of that lineup, I think that's my ideal. Off season, obviously, come to an agreement with Skubal. But yeah, if you can do that, you're competing in the American League, and in baseball, you got to keep making these playoffs. You got to keep competing, and eventually, it will work out for you.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, anything in the Tigers before we wrap up the show with our grit of the week?
Nope, all good.
All right, let's jump to Grit of the Week. Grit of the Week, as always, is brought to you by one of our favorite sponsors, Pins and Aces. Pins and Aces is a Colorado-based golf brand making premium polos, head covers, and gear that perform both on the course and stand out everywhere else. They're all made in the USA with quality that you can feel. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount with our promo code GRIT, GRIT, at pinsandaces.com. That's GRIT at pinsandaces.com for 21% off any product. Again, as Kyle mentioned with our last sponsor, the holidays are right around the corner. Get your loved ones some golf attire, some golf covers, some polos, anything. Get your loved ones some stuff for next season's golf. And use our promo code GRIT for 21% off. My grit of the week was going to be Dan Campbell for making the hard decision of taking back play calling from Johnny Morton. Again, not playing with his food, not like kind of going back and forth and trying to stick with his original hire in Johnny Morton. Just saying enough is enough after just a few weeks and taking back play calling, taking the helm. But I got to change my grit of the week, and I'm going to go with Danish Jenkins. We just talked about the Pistons. Danish Jenkins had an insane game last night. He's someone who has been on a 2-way contract, which basically, for anyone who's not really a Pistons head out there, basically means most of his time is played on the G League team, which is like the minor leagues in the NBA. Most of his time spent there. If there's a lot of injuries, basically means we can call him up at any time to play for us for a few games here and there and send him back down. This year, this offseason, due to injuries, due to the roster fallout, he was assigned to a full-time contract, which is great for him. He deserves it. He's been playing. He's very talented. But last night, he averaged just 9 points per game in the small amount of playing time he had. Last night, due to injuries across the board with Asar Thompson, you already mentioned Tobias Harris, Beef Stew, Ron Holland wasn't playing really well. Jaden Ivey obviously out. He got a lot of run time in the overtime win against the Wizards last night. He was absolutely fantastic. He finished with 24 points, 8 total rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, which is insane. And the most important of all, he hit 2 3-pointers in the final 5 seconds in order to tie the game. He had one with 5 seconds left. We fouled real quick. We got the ball back, ended up being down by 1. The inbound play didn't go to who we wanted it to be, so we just threw the ball to him. He threw it up at the last second, nailed the 3-pointer to send us to overtime. He was fantastic. Just an all-around great story for a guy who absolutely puts in the work and deserves it. Danish Jenkins with his first grit of the week. Shout out to him.
Oh, it was so sick, man. So wet. Both those shots were just disgustingly
He's a bucket.
Wet. It was awesome, man. I mean, they had no prayer of winning that game. And then Jenkins, man, Jenkins from 3, and they're right back in it. That last inbound play too, which was like chaos. I mean, multiple guys falling over. I mean, it didn't work at all. I don't know if you noticed, but Cade, I mean, unless I totally saw that wrong, he threw that no look. Like he was just, I mean, he was locked into like 4.5 seconds of whatever action they were running. Guys were hitting the ground left and right, and then Cade just throws no look to Jenkins, and bang, rest is history. And the Pistons have 9 wins on the season. It was awesome. So yeah, shout out him, grit of the week. I'm gonna go guy who you mentioned already. My grit of the week, Jalen Duren. Just an outstanding start to the season for this young man. And I say he's a young man, he's still 21 years old, ridiculously young for being his 3rd year in the league now. He's incredible, man. 19.4 points per game. You already mentioned all this. 71% true shooting, 12 rebounds a game. Add another block and a half per game and a steal. all of which are career bests, and his defensive rating. His defense is just, it continues to get better and better after he basically called out himself for playing soft defense halfway through last season. He's been fantastic, 5th in defensive rating in the NBA. This kid can do it all, man. He is just blossoming in front of our eyes as one of the better centers in this league. The two-man game between him and Cade, the pick-and-roll game, the pick-and-pop game, it's just working, man. And we'll see if, teams can start defending it throughout the season, or if there's, more and more tape on them. But at this point, there's been, at least 3 years of these guys going at it with tape, and no one can stop it yet. So, yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with. Grit of the week, Jalen Duren.
The key to his success was always going to be his defense coming around, because he's a walking double-double, because he's the best lob threat in the NBA. And you're right, people will start keying in on that, and that's when other guys are going to start eating. Cade will deny the lob and go to the corner three or something like that. But the key to his success was always his defense. His defense was never up to par, in which you couldn't play him with a lot of lineups because his defense was so sus. His defense has absolutely come around. His instinct has been better. His effort has been better. If it continues throughout the season, obviously it's a smaller sample size. If it continues throughout the season, like I said, he was my pick for MIP this season. I think he's going to be a legit MIP candidate in the entire NBA. Like I said, I think he's on his way to an all-star reserve role. He's been fantastic. Like I said, he's the one we're going to be kicking ourselves for not getting him a deal before this year, because he's earning himself a whole hell of a lot more money. I love that. Dennis Jenkins and Jalen Duren, shout out to both of them. So deserving of both of them. All right, that is our show. It was a jam-packed one. We were all over the board. Thank you guys for listening and tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or on TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. As a reminder, we're still doing a bunch of videos every single day, doing our best wings in Detroit. We just found the best wings so far in Detroit. You'll have to tune into our TikTok to figure out where that was, but they were phenomenal. They got a score of 9.0, so tune into the TikTok to figure out where that was at. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And then finally, if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review saying so. Follow us on all forms of social media. It gives us so much more leverage and so much more room to bring Detroit sports for you guys and keep chatting about all our first place teams. Thank you guys for listening so much.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
Yeah. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow. 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 Your fandom a vow.